We'll be learning about the demand and the supply and what is the relation between the demand and supply. At what time the supplier will be on the upper stage, and at what time, at what situation the customer will be on the upper stage. All right. So here is the demand and supply analysis. So first we'll understand what is demand. So demand is something which is the want of the customer. So it is called as the demand. And supply is the phrase where we use that it is the action, or which is action to be considered to fulfill action considered to fulfill the demand. Okay, let's understand in a small example. So let's say the demand is 5 apples. Okay, what is demand? Demand is 5 apples here. So in order to just make this demand satisfied, what should be the supply? The supply should be even the equivalent or more than this utility or more than this demand. That is 5 apples. 5 apples or more than that plus, right? Then only there is a point that a demand is getting satisfied. So let's say we'll be discussing about the three factors where the demand shall be more important, or the supply shall be more important, or those both shall be on the equilibrium form. So let's say in the situation 1, so the supplier is having the stock of 20 apples. What is the supply? How much the supply is available with the supplier? That is 20 apples. But what the demand is? The demand is only for the 5 apples. The demand is for 5 apples. So in this case, who is actually standing tall, or who is actually making the more importance? The customer is in the aggressive form. Why? Because demand is less than the supply, right? So if the customers are not ready to purchase all the 20 apples, if the customers are only ready to purchase the 5 apples, then what supplier will do? He'll get the loss of 15 apples, right? So if no one are there to utilize or consume that apples, those apples get spoiled. So the investment which is invested by the supplier for that 15 apples will be going waste. So what supplier will do, or what shopkeeper will do, he'll try to minimize his loss, or he'll try to minimize the profit, so that no profit no loss ratio shall be maintained. So what he'll do, let's say one apple's cost is 20 rupees per unit per one, or let's say 20 rupees per unit, one unit. So what the 220 apples are there with supplier, right? So what is the overall cost as per the market the supplier is holding? 20 apples into 20. So what it is 400 rupees of the stock he is holding. But the customer is only having the demand for 5 apples. So what does that mean? What does that mean? demand is only for the 5 apples, that means when we actually turn that into the monetary transactions, the demand is only for 100 rupees. That means technically the purchasing power of the customer is only 100. Purchasing power of the customer is only 100. So what the supplier will try to sell, or will the supplier will try to do, he'll try to enhance the budget of the customer by giving the offers. What do I really mean by the offer? Offer means, let's say, what supplier will do here, he'll just say, boss, if you purchase instead of 5 apples, if you purchase 10 apples, instead of 5 apples, if you purchase 10 apples, I'll give more 10 apples as a complimentary. We can even say it as buy one get one free, just like that. But you, instead of 20 rupees a unit, I'll be just giving you all the apples just for 250 rupees, where you will be getting 20 apples. Correct? So initially what was the price? That was 20 rupees per one apple. So what was the stock the supplier is holding? 20 apples. So that means overall was 400 rupees. But he's actually reducing 150 rupees in order to just make sure he is not even facing the loss, and customer is even enhancing his demand more than what he want. Right? So this is what the offers that shall be introduced, or there shall be more schemes that shall be introduced by the supplier, because here demand is less than the supply. Right? This is the first phase where customer stands tall. All right, so let's discuss on the second case now. Here let's speak about the second case, where the demand is 10 apples and supply is 10 apples. What will happen in this case? Demand and supply are both are equal. Right? When demand and supply both are equal, then what will happen? Nothing will happen. The equilibrium will be maintained, and the fair price for, let's say, if the apple stays the same price, one apple is 20 rupees. So if the customer want, the apple price is 20 rupees. So when customer want one apple or 10 apples, the price would be same. There shall be no domination of either the supplier or the customer. So this is the equilibrium in the second stage. So now let's discuss on the third stage. What can be happening in the third stage? It's directly inverse to the first stage. How? Because demand is, let's say, 50 apples. Okay, demand is 50 apples, but supply is only 20 apples. So what will happen here? Who is standing tall here? Supplier is in aggressive form. Is in aggressive. Why supplier is in aggressive stage? Because here supply is less than demand. Right? So let's say apple's cost is 20 per one unit. But what supplier will do? Because the demand is huge and the supply is less. So what will do? The supplier will increase the price. Supplier will increase the price from 20 to 30 per unit. Understood? So initially what we were been seeing, initially in that stage 1, what we have understood, supplier is having the stock of 20 apples, but the demand is only for 5 apples. So customer is in the aggressive form. So what, in that stage, the customer will be getting benefited with the more amount of offers and all. But in the third stage, what is happening? The stuff, some demand is more, but the supply is less. So what in this case? Supplier will be increasing the price. So directly or indirectly, this increasing of price can be even called as inflation. Right? So what is inflation? We will be discussing in the next session.